Happy Wednesday. Glory and honor to our Father Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is. The God and Father, the Messiah, YHWH, who is the returning King of planet Earth, of a kingdom given to him by our Father. Glory and honor to Father Yahweh. Glory and honor to YHWH Mashiach. Greetings to the 12 tribes scattered into the four corners of the earth, who are now awakening to who they are by the Spirit of the Father through Messiah YHWH. Greetings to the 144,000 who are the forerunners of the return of Messiah. Greetings to the precious ones among the children of Shem, Ham, and Japhet, who are not the bloodline of Jacob, but are of the blood of Messiah and have received the gift of righteousness, perfect righteousness from the Father, to be grafted along with the chosen ones. Greetings. Greetings to the chat. Brother Jay House, Imana Prakash, Hebrewish Wanda, Brother Gary Joseph, Superstar, Brother David Harriet, Brother Francis, Sister Daniels, Brother Kelly. Greetings to all of you as we're now doing our current events on Wednesday night. Where do I start? You saw the thumbnail. In the thumbnail and in the description box, there's an article. There are approximately, maybe a little more, than 200,000 people that are serving life without the possibility of parole in the United States of America. 200,000. That's just people that are serving life without the possibility of parole. In other words, they will die in prison. They will not come out of prison. Okay? Shabbat Shalom. Well, happy Wednesday, Organic Fanatic. Brother Mark, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, Organic Fanatic. Oh, by the way, before I start, I want to also, another current event that I wanted to bring up. We talked about it last week. The new year. The new moon, the first new moon of last year, and you could go back and look at the lunar calendar because that's usually close. It may not be exact. In fact, it's normally not exact, but it's close. The first month of the Hebrew year last year was March 23rd of last year. That was the first, what the people of the world call the waxing crescent. The waxing crescent is what we count as a new moon. So the 12th new moon starting last year on March 23rd is this year was February 12th. So your 12th new moon of the year was February 12th. Now that's before spring. That's before equinox, before spring. So that's why this year an extra 30-day month is added. It usually happens once every 7 years. It's not really anything to do with the leap year. It's not tied to the leap year. It's on its own, but it's once every 7 years. Okay. So this year we added the 30 days, and now the 13th month began on March, around the 12th of March, 11th of March. So now your first new moon of the new year will be around April. Now, this is the thing. The eclipse, the solar eclipse that we all have heard about, the scientists expect it to be around April 8th. But the new moon, from looking at the lunar calendar, now we're going to, and this is where the point I'm making is we're going to bear witness to what it is. But the new moon is expected around the 11th of April. Okay. So we were all, and this is your assignment, bear witness. You can start looking around April the 8th, and you'll start to see the first waxing crescent somewhere between the 8th of April and the 11th of April. Now, if the first new moon of the Hebrew year is not on the exact day of the full lunar eclipse they're expecting, that doesn't mean it's not a sign. It's still a sign. You understand? Everybody hear what I'm saying? So there's going to be a lunar eclipse, and there's going to be a new moon of the Hebrew year. they may or may not be on the same day, but we're all of us are going to observe. That's all you have to do is be able to look into the sky and see the moon. That's all you have to do. And you'll see a waxing crescent. And so we'll see where it is. But what I want to tell y'all is whether it happens on the exact same day or not, it's still a sign. It's still a sign. And these next 3.5 years are still vitally important. And we're going to see all types of actions and signs that the word has been telling us about in the next 3.5 years, ending in the fall of 2027. And I want to be clear, I am not saying that the Messiah will return in the fall of 2027. The event that takes place for sure in the fall of 2027 is what, brethren? First test question of the night. What is the event that will take place on the 10th day of the 7th month of the Hebrew year in the fall of 2027? That's right, the Jubilee. So that's the event that's going to definitely take place. What comes with it, I'm not sure. See, I'm expecting an outpouring of the Father's Spirit upon us around that time. Now, all of us, as we know, are being prepared. And slowly but surely, in increments, we are receiving the Father's Spirit and building us up in his grace toward his glory, right? And I'm going to tell you this, 5 years after 2027, I am expecting the return of the Messiah. I am expecting, I can say that for sure. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right. It can happen before, of course, but I'm expecting it definitely by 2032 in the fall. Absolutely. Because that would be, as you know, the tabernacles. Okay. So, and that would be around the 15th day of the 7th month of the Hebrew year in 2032. Okay. So I just wanted to bring out those disclaimers as we're getting close to the beginning of the Hebrew year this year, which is going to be again in April, sometime between the 8th and the 11th. But again, you guys, along with myself, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, you're looking for the crescent, the waxing crescent moon. That's where you start to see light. The first light you start to see on the right side of the moon. Y'all got that? So you're looking on the right side of the moon, and you're looking for the first light that appears on the right side of the moon. That's telling you, well, sometimes some of y'all have noticed it's also on the bottom. Like this month right here that started, the crescent was actually on the bottom of the moon. Did y'all notice that? It wasn't on the right side. It was on the bottom of the moon. Did some of y'all notice that? So the light appeared on the bottom of the moon. Okay. So, but when you see that first it's called a waxing crescent. That's the beginning of your month right there. And so we're going to look for that. When y'all see it and I see it, we can bear witness that we seen it, right? So we can, to mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses will bear witness when we see that first new moon of the Hebrew year, our new year. Praise the Most High. I just wanted to bring that up. So back to what we're talking about as far as other current events. So of the 200,000 prisoners in the United States prison system that are serving sentences of life without the possibility of parole, 55% of them are Hebrew or so-called Black African Americans. So 110,000 people that are serving life without the possibility of parole are Hebrews. Now, what does that mean? That means that for the most part, there's exceptions. Now, there's a guy, I got his link in the description box as well. His name was Ronnie Long. Ronnie Long was convicted of rape. He raped a child of Yafet. He, being a Hebrew, rape a child of Yafet is what he was accused of in the late 1970s. And all Yafet jury convicted him of rape, but they found out they withheld a lot of evidence that would have exonerated him. And so after 44 years in prison, his sentence was vacated. and he was let out at age 68. Okay, now he received $25 million because he sued the state of North Carolina for that wrongful conviction in terms of withholding evidence. And he was released, and he's receiving $25 million for it. But of course, as he would say, as he has said, it's a lot of money, but it doesn't give me back 44 years, right? So there are many people, I don't know if it's, well, I would say it's probably not the majority, but there are many people that are in jail for sentences for crimes they did not commit. But those are few and far between. The majority of people in jail did what they were accused of doing and received the just sentences. And what this means is when the Messiah returns, there's a lot of people that are going to be in a jail cell, right? When the Messiah returns, there's a lot of people that are going to be in jail cells. They're not going to be fleeing. They're not going to be outside. Not going to be preaching outside. They're going to be in jail cells. And also, of course, as a side note, some of us may be in jail cells when the Messiah returns, because we'll be arrested and put in jail because of our message. Now, that's a different thing. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. I'm going to begin in 1 Peter chapter 4. I'm going to begin at verse 12. 1 Peter chapter 4 from verse 12 down to verse 19. Now, many people use what I'm about to read as proof that Christianity existed in the Bible. This is not proof that Christianity existed in the Bible. This is proof that somebody was called a Christian and that it was a negative connotation. That's what this is proof of. The difference between, and let me explain for the Christians that are going to be contacting me, there's a difference between a Christian and the institution religion of Christianity. Okay? So in the Bible, Christos, the follower of Christos, the follower of the Hebrew Messiah, was called Christian by 3 people in the entire Bible. But as an institution with buildings and crosses and conferences and 501c3 corporations, that did not exist in the Bible. Do y'all see the difference? There were individuals that other individuals labeled Christian. But there was no religion called Christianity in the Bible. Okay, there were Hebrews and converts to the Hebrew Messiah that were called followers of the way. Followers of the way. That's what they were called. They were not called Christians, except by 3 people in the entire Bible. So these verses are not about that. These verses are why someone would go to jail. Okay, that's what it's really about. Okay, why you would be arrested, why you would be guilty of a crime. Do you understand? And so somebody guilty of a crime is what these verses are about. So let's look at them. 1 Peter chapter 4 from verse 4 to verse 19. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. So this part right here, he's preparing the reader to understand. Don't think it's wild when you try to do everything right and you are going through a fiery trial. And many of you, like myself, can certainly relate to that. Okay, so you come to the truth, you come and receive the Spirit of the Father, you're seeking to glorify Him, you're seeking to read His Word, and fiery trials come at you. He said, don't think that's strange. Okay, verse 13. But rejoice inasmuch as you are partakers of Messiah's sufferings, that when His glory shall be revealed, you may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Messiah, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of Yahweh rests upon you. On their part, he is evil spoken of, but on your part, he is glorified. So the apostle is saying, if you're seeking to do the right thing, you're repentant of your sin, you're seeking to live as a good citizen in the country you live in, and you're seeking to bring glory and honor to your heavenly Father, and you go through the strongest trials, don't think it's strange. And he says, rejoice, because that is a partaking of Messiah. Because Messiah went through a fiery trial and he was innocent. So now through Messiah, you and I will go through fiery trials, being innocent from the Father. Okay? But he says, verse 15, but let none of you suffer as a murderer. See, if you're a murderer, you deserve the sentence you get. Or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Yet, he says, if any man suffer as a Christian, he says, let him not be ashamed. Why would he have to admonish the person being called Christian to not be ashamed? See that? So he admonishes the person. He has murderers, evildoers, thieves, busybodies. But he said, don't be ashamed, though, if they call you a Christian. Right. Let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify Yahweh on his behalf. For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of Yahweh. And if it first begin at us, what shall be the end of them that obey not the gospel of Yahweh? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? Wherefore, let them that suffer according to the will of Yahweh commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing as unto a faithful creator. So, brethren, so he's saying, as followers of Messiah, disciples, followers of the way to glorify our Heavenly Father with his righteousness, don't break the law. Testing 1, 2, 3. Don't break the law. Okay? Don't be a rebellion against the law. Now, Messiah himself, when we read in the Gospels about his life, you never hear about him being involved in anti-Roman government demonstrations. You never hear about him being involved in attacking the Roman government. Although we know the Roman government was evil. We know the Roman government was set up by Satan. But you never hear him attacking that. We know also in the scriptures, in the gospel, it shows the Roman government killing Hebrews. We're, as Hebrews, very familiar with government attacks upon us. But you never hear, to put it in the context, you never hear Messiah. You never hear Messiah getting political. You never hear him getting political. His message was to repent, for the kingdom of the Father is at hand. His message was to repent, for the kingdom of the Father, the kingdom of the high place of the firmament, the kingdom of the Most High is at hand. That's what his message was. And his message was not him giving that message directly to the Gentiles. That message was given only to the Hebrews by the Messiah himself. Now later, he sent Paul and other Hebrews to give that message to the Gentiles. But again, it wasn't a political message. The Messiah nor his disciples was involved with the politics of not only that, you would say, okay, it's not even dealing with politics in the nation of Israel, the southern kingdom of Judah. They weren't involved with the Romans' politics at all. So they weren't trying to be rebellious against even the corrupt government. Now, rebellion came from the Messiah when he declared his Father is going to make him a king. That's what they caught hold of. He says, Father is going to give him a kingdom. And he told him he's going to come in the clouds with power of the Father, and he's going to take the kingdom. That's what caused him to be arrested. That's what the excuse that the Judaism people used to bring him to the Gentiles, and the Gentiles used to kill him. Treason. For talking about a kingdom that wasn't Caesar's. And it's the same thing that's going to happen now, because 666 is man-based religion with man-based politics and a man-based world power of Babylon. And we're saying the Messiah is returning and we're his Hebrew brethren, and he's going to destroy all his kingdoms. So what we're going to be charged with is the same thing that Messiah was charged with. Does that make sense, y'all? And it all fits together. We being followers of the way, and the way Messiah being our example, Father having sent him, all of us can expect the exact same thing for the exact same reason. But murderers and the brothers you see in the thumbnail have this in common. All of them are serving life without the possibility of parole. Some for raping and killing children. Some for just straight out murder. Okay? They're serving life without the possibility of parole. And you're seeing a lot more of those type of heinous crimes. And you're seeing a lot more of those sentences, life without parole. Crime so heinous, life without parole. Okay? Or double life or triple life plus 72 years. One of the judges gave one of them brothers. Now, we're now, as we know, we're in the home stretch of the return of Messiah. We're in the home stretch of the return of Messiah. Okay? We are praying for the Father's Spirit to seal us. We are repenting of our sin. And we're seeking the Father's word to be made part of us for the glory of the Father. But there are those that are not, that are of Hebrew blood. The woman last week I told you about left her daughter home to starve to death while she went on vacation. She received a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. That was a northern tribe system. Okay? And the Bible showed us, first let's talk about the first example of this. When our fathers come out of Egypt the first time, when the Father Yah called our fathers out of Egypt, as prophesied, out of Egypt I will call my son. He called our fathers out of Egypt, led by Moses and Aaron. Okay? They were rebellious the whole time coming across the wilderness. They get to the borders of the promised land, and they send a representative, 12 men, one from each tribe of the 12 tribes. The men come back with an evil report. The people rebel against the Father. And the Father tells them through Moses, you're going back in the wilderness, and until all of y'all die. You will not be going into the promised land. You're going to die in the wilderness. And your children that are 20 years old and under, they will be able to come in. The only ones from your generation to come in, they were told, would be Caleb and Joshua, YHWH. Everybody else would die in the wilderness from that generation. Now, Ezekiel, well, first, before we go to Ezekiel, let's go back to Malachi. Because Malachi, as we have seen, Malachi is very prophetic in terms of our time period, in terms of what's going to happen and what is happening. As we use Malachi, with some other scriptures to show the two witnesses and how the two witnesses are manifest in people. Right? Y'all remember that? So the two witnesses are Moses and Elijah, but the two witnesses, those are symbols of how that's manifest in people. He said, remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I gave to all Israel with the statutes and judgment. That's one. And then, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the great and terrible day of Yahweh come. That's two. Elijah representing the spirit and power of the Father. And then, of course, the law of Moses represent obedience to the Father's covenant. Those two were manifest in John the Baptist, and they will be manifest in the 144,000. Okay, so, but what we're talking about here, though, is Malachi. Let's see. No, I'm sorry, not Malachi. It's Zechariah. Yes, it's Zechariah 13. I talked all about Malachi, but we're going to Zechariah chapter 13. Zechariah chapter 13. Zechariah chapter 13. Notice what it says here. Zechariah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 7 and go down to verse 9. Zechariah chapter 13 from verse 7 to verse 9. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahweh of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Yahweh, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. But the third part shall be left therein, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my most high. So you can see from this, 2/3 of us are not going to make it. 2/3 of us are going to be cut off. 2/3 of us represent rebellion against the Most High. 2/3 of us. Okay. It says, awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahweh of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. That is the same thing as, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Yahweh, and have the testimony of Messiah. Again, those are the two witnesses, the commandments of Yahweh, the law of Moses, the Messiah, the testimony of Messiah. The testimony of Messiah is the spirit of prophecy. There's Moses, there's Elijah. And here it is again. Awake, smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. See, same thing. So now you're seeing here, there's going to be a whittling down of the chosen ones in these last days, in these next few years. Also, why? Notice what Moses says here, and Moses is always one of the witnesses. Let's see Moses in Exodus chapter 33, I believe. Exodus chapter 33. No, it's 34. Exodus 34, beginning at verse, notice Exodus 34. I'm going to start at verse 1. I'm going to start at verse 1 and go down to verse 7. This is Exodus chapter 34, from verse 1 to verse 7. And Yahweh said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables which thou breakest. And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto the Mount Sinai, and present thyself there to me in the top of the mount. And no man shall come up with thee, neither let any man be seen throughout all the mount. Neither let the flocks or the herds feed before the mount. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moses rose up early in the morning and went up unto Mount Sinai, as Yahweh had commanded him, and took in his hand the 2 tables of stone. And Yahweh descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of Yahweh. And Yahweh passed by before him and proclaimed Yahweh Most High, merciful and gracious, long suffering in abundance and goodness and truth. And watch this part here: keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. Look at that. Forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and fourth generation. Why would he be able to forgive transgression, iniquity, and sin, and then say, I'm not clearing the guilty? In this context, brethren, who are the guilty? He said, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. Who are the guilty ones? That's right. Thank you, Imam Prakash. That's exactly right. The unrepentant sinners are the guilty ones. Unrepentant sinners are the guilty ones. These are the ones, brethren, that will stand up in court having committed the most heinous crimes and declare themselves innocent. I swear I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Having raped and murdered babies, tortured for years, get caught and say, I swear I didn't do it. Those are the guilty. The ones who are forgiven of iniquity and transgression and sin are the ones who admit what they done, admit they deserve their sentence, and ask for mercy. Does that make sense? That will by no means clear the guilty. So his grace and his mercy is for those that are repentant. It is not for the unrepentant. That will by no means clear the guilty. Hey, Yafi, Funky Fresh, welcome. Don Hines, Gary Joseph, Jacobo, welcome. All of y'all. Praise the Most High. All right. See? So that will by no means clear the guilty. So people that are unrepentant, unfaithful, unbelief is what the Bible calls it. There's a word for it. Let's go to Ezekiel, brother Ezekiel. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20. Ezekiel chapter 20. Ezekiel chapter 20. And I'm going to begin at, this tells the story exactly what we're talking about here. So Ezekiel chapter 20, I'm going to begin at verse 33 and go down to verse 38. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 33 to verse 38. As I live, saith the Most High Yahweh, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from among the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein you were scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So will I plead with you, said the Most High Yahweh. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. This is when we're going to be fleeing. Verse 38, though. And I will purge out from among you the rebels. Them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and they shall know that I'm Yahweh. So before he's going to purge out from among us the rebels, I submit to you, brethren. This is already happening. The 4 boys that shot all of them kids at the bus stop. And the last one, they caught 3 of them last week. One of them they just caught, it was in Philadelphia. One of them they just caught in Alexandria, Virginia. Those boys are going to be in prison probably when the Messiah returns. I will purge out from among you the rebels. See, brethren, to serve our Father, to be obedient to his spirit, to seek to glorify his name, has nothing to do with being rebellious against the society. You're just seeking truth. Now, the act of rebellion that exists is the act of seeking truth. Because in a society built on lies, truth is rebellion. But you're not trying to rebel against the laws of the land until those laws come at odds with Father's law. And that's why the 666 and the mark of the beast comes in. We have no problem. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had no problem going to the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar set up. They were out there. Their problem came when Nebuchadnezzar said, bow and worship it. Worship the image that I set up. That's where the problem came. Okay? And that's where the problem came, because they were going to be obedient to the Father. They determined they were going to be, even in Babylon, they were going to be obedient to the Father. But then when Babylon declared, I need you to worship this image, they said, we don't have to think about it. We're not careful. The very words were, we're not careful to answer you in this matter. We will not bow to your image, nor the gods that you set up. Okay? And we're going to all be in the same position, because right now, what you have, the beast is the Vatican. The image to the beast is the threefold union between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism that run the entire planet. They run the planet. Let me ask you this question. Would I be crazy if I said the United States is the leading country of the United Nations, and in the United Nations, the three main religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam? Is that correct? Those countries that are not with that are not in the UN. They're not members. See? So it's already set up. Is what I'm telling you. It's already set up. It's already set up. And if you remember, again, 9/11. Let's go back to 9/11, because 9/11 showed us the dress. 9/11 was a dress rehearsal. 9/11 was a dress rehearsal. Let me explain why. On the day, before the day was over, I don't even think the sun set yet, on 9/11, they had Osama bin Laden's picture posted on every news station in the world. Testing 1, 2, 3. If y'all was alive at that time, that was, more than 20 years ago. So some of y'all may not remember. Some of y'all be too young. But all of us that were adults at that time, do you remember? They had his picture posted on every television, on every news station in the world. Okay, that was step one. This is the problem right here. They said, this is the problem. This is the guy. Okay. Then I'd say within a couple months at the most, they started freezing assets of any suspected terrorist, any Muslim that might have been in a terrorist meeting or a cell that they suspected. They froze all their assets. Do y'all remember that? They froze. You couldn't get a bank account. You couldn't fly a plane. And they were after them all over the world. And it wasn't just the United States. It wasn't just the United States. They had the United Nations forces fighting against Osama bin Laden. I mean, you had all the NATO, you had all the UN peacekeeping forces, all the countries got their best out, and they were all coming to fight. You had Canada, you had all of the European nations, you had Canada, Japan, everybody. They were all forming armies led by the United States to go and fight in Iran and Iraq, Iran, and then not Iran, Iraq, and then Afghanistan. Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay. You see how that went. That was a dress rehearsal. That was a dress rehearsal, because exactly what's going to happen going forward. Okay. Catastrophic events blamed on this crazy cult that speaks against the government, saying there's going to be a new kingdom and this government's going to be destroyed. Speaks against Christianity, speaks against the religions of the people. This rebellious cult that claims to just follow the Bible only. That was a dress rehearsal for what's about to happen. Okay. Now, because of several things. Now, we always know there's different types. There's rebellious ones that are just rebellious and just, they just not going to follow the truth as the Bible showed us. He's going to purge them out 2/3. Okay. Then there's those that, we know the Judases. There's always Judases, and Judases look like us. We also call them by a certain animal, raccoon. And they look like us. There's those too, right? And they change sides against us. They're already doing that. How many coons we done seen? There's a lot of coons out here. So they change sides for money and fame, and to get in with our enemies, and they go against us. They talk down about us. They ridicule us. They write books, articles, do newspaper articles, do just for the fame and fortune and going against us and getting on the good side of our enemies. Always Judases exist, and they will exist until the end. Okay, so, but before all of that, the ones that are rebellious, and the thing is, brethren, here's the sad thing about the rebellious ones that are doing these heinous crimes and being sent to prison with life without parole or death sentence. A lot of them were also abused. I saw one where this man had a wife, and the wife's family, he was a Hebrew, and the wife's family and him, the mother of the wife said, "Take care of my daughter." He said, "I promise I'm going to always take care of her." He ended up choking her to death and then beating her to death out in front of the kids in the yard. He received 17 years. He did not receive life without parole. He received 17 years. But during the period right before the sentence was pronounced, when the families got a chance to say what they had to say to him, one of them said, "I know why you are the way you are by how you was raised." In other words, they were intimating that the anger that caused him to snap and kill his wife began with how, and in fact, it was his parents that said that, began with how he was raised. Now, that doesn't clear his guilt, but it just goes to show you the sadness, the sad reality that a lot of us are creating our own monsters by how we raise our children, which is why, as we are repentant to the Father and we seek his face and we seek his word. My wife and I talk about this a lot. I could have been a completely different person based on how I was raised and how my father was raised and how his mother was raised. My grandmother was raped when she was 13. And that obviously affected her judgment and affected how she was going to survive. And then all my father and his brothers were raised in themselves, struggling, fighting, hurting. And that's when he had me. But one thing I will say is the grace of the Father and the mercy of the Father and his word and his truth stopped the curse in my family, stopped it. So that this past year, all of my children came, saw us here, saw my father. That's the first time he got to see all his grandchildren and a couple of his great grandchildren. And all, that's the first time he got to see them. And it was no accident. My wife and I recognized there was no accident. One of my second son had not talked to us in about 5-6 years. He came, called and said, "I'm coming to see Grandpa, and I'm coming to see you." Then we knew it was something, because the truth of the Father and his mercy and grace stopped the curse. It cut it short. And that's what I'm here to say to y'all. In spite of what some people are doing to their kids, the truth of the Father, the mercy and grace of the Father, his righteousness on us seeking to glorify his name and study his word alone. Get this right. Study his word and his word alone breaks the curse. Breaks, but listen, I don't have to say to y'all, I can, if I say what I'm about to say, I'm 100% guaranteed y'all understand. Do we not suffer from generational curses? Hebrews, do we not suffer from generational curses? All y'all could testify. Do we not suffer from generational curses? Yeah. All of us know. But the Spirit of the Father breaks the curse. Period. Plain and simple. The perfect righteousness coming in the form of the Father's Spirit through Messiah breaks the curse. It stops with us. See? And it's no coincidence that it's stopping with us. Why? Because we're the generation that's going to see the Messiah come in power. We're the generation that's going to be alive when he comes to the earth and set up his kingdom. So the curse stops with us. That's part of a sign of the end. But there's, unfortunately, those rebellious ones among us, those out killing people, taking their cars, those out shooting and killing women or people because they had an argument. Boy, yesterday had an argument with somebody, get in front of his house, goes to his house, tells his mom, I'm just going out to smoke a cigarette, steps out in front of his house, drive by, dead, because they argued about a parking space or something. See, it's happening, brethren, every single day, multiple times every single day. Everything from drive-by shootings over something stupid, somebody trying to steal somebody's car, somebody arguing with somebody over some past beef, kill it, die. Not talking about money either. We're just talking about beefs, stupidness, arguments, people killing people in road rage all the time. It's crazy. It's getting crazier, and it's going to. Father is going to rebel, is going to take the rebellious ones and remove them. Those are the unrepentant ones. Remove them. And a lot of them are going to be in jail cells when the Messiah returns. I'm not saying they can't repent of their sin. That's up to them. As we know, the Father from before the foundation of the world knows the ones that he has chosen. But some of these, raping and killing 12-year-old, 10-year-old kids, yesterday stabbed two twins, one of them to death because she didn't go for his line. She didn't want to talk to him. She walking in the deli with her sister, stabbed him to death. Stabbed one survived, stabbed the other, twin girls. Because they didn't like it, they didn't want to talk to him. That's it. So rebellion will not be tolerated by the Father. You're going to pay your penalty, especially you a Hebrew in a country that has the whole system built against the Hebrew, and then you're going to go out here and act a fool? Oh, yeah. Father got something for you. And again, that's why I think I put this in the description box, this scripture, but I still want to read it. This is Romans chapter 13. Again, we look what we've read now. Moses, Ezekiel, Zechariah, and Paul. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. This is our 4th witness. Romans chapter 13. Going to begin at verse 1, going down to verse 5. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of the Most High Yah, and the powers that be are ordained of Yah. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of Yah, And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of Yahweh to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of Yahweh, an avenger to execute wrath upon him that doth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. See? Brethren, we've been scattered throughout the earth for our crimes against the Father. And we know firsthand of the evil that has been inflicted on us by our enemies. But now the time of the Gentiles has been fulfilled. Now we are being called, all of us are being called to the Father by his Spirit, to his word, to bring honor and glory to his name as examples of his grace. The 144,000, remember they call the first fruits, being redeemed from among men, the first fruits unto Yahweh and to the Lamb. And in their mouth there was no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of Yah. So we're being called to holiness. We're being called to the Father Yah, to his Spirit, to receive perfection of righteousness. And in that, we seek to be obedient to the laws of the land, even though we know it's run by criminals and the whole system's a lie. We're being obedient according to the Father's word. And when our obedience to the Father comes at odds with our obedience to Babylon, that's 666. That's the mark of the beast. That's it. Very easy. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their obedience was at odds with the image to Babylon. And they worshiped the Father, and they were thrown in a fiery furnace, sentenced to death. Brethren, it is an exact metaphor of what we're dealing with. Only the image now is the three Abrahamic religions. That's the image. Well, I hope that the warning and the blessing comes upon y'all. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.